Well, welcome to week 2 of No Slouch No Ouch. I'm Mason,
I'm Alex.
and today we're going to be talking about some motor control activities.
Fun stuff. All right, today we are joined by our live studio audience. Thanks, Brittany. But today we're going to talk about motor control. And so this is kind of a weird subject. It's not quite strength, it's not quite endurance, but it's a very important concept while we're at the workplace. And so what this means is it's our ability for our muscles to coordinate with each other to move or to even hold certain postures. And sometimes we can get a little bit out of whack when we've been spending too much time in these static postures. So what we want to work on is actually being able to recruit these muscles in the proper proportions to each other to reduce pain and to increase our movement throughout the day. So the main goal of this is to actually re-educate our body on how to use our muscles, and that actually has a lot more to do with how we represent that up in the head versus the actual tightness or the strength of the muscles. And Mason's going to explain a little bit further about how we're going to go about this.
Yeah, so when we're working on motor control things, some of the principles we use are use it or lose it. So like any other muscle, if you don't use it, it's going to get smaller, it's going to get weaker. It's the same idea, but with the brain. So if you're not using it, the brain just kind of forgets about that muscle and how to coordinate with other muscles. So we can do that and improve our coordination with that, because otherwise we're going to lose it. We're going to get farther down the path of not being able to do the things we want to do. And that leads into the next part, where it's being specific to what you want to do. So if you're using a muscle for something you want to do, you want to train it for that purpose. You don't want to be outside of that doing something completely random, like, I don't know, grabbing a coffee when you should be typing on a desk.
Right.
And then the last point would be repetition matters. So if we're going to be using it, we want to do as many repetitions, or just trying to do more and more things with that muscle to be able to complete your activities of daily living.
And one other thing just to think about too is that all of our muscles pretty much work with other muscles. And that's what we mean by coordination. It's not just the signals that are coming from the brain to initiate one muscle, but it's how the brain ties all of those muscles together as we move. And sometimes if it's firing one too much, that's when we get pain in a certain area or some sort of dysfunction in the movement.
Lots of parts, one whole.
True.
We need everything to work together.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. So the next topic we're going to address is something we call dissociation, which is just a big word for different body parts moving independently from each other. So let's say I want to eat something and my elbow can't bend, my shoulder can go. So they're kind of stuck together. So I raise my arm and I can't get my hand to my mouth. When we're talking about dissociating those movements, it means I can raise my shoulder and I can bend my elbow at the same time, so I can get my hand to my mouth. And that's the same idea with the spine. You want your big femur, your big leg bone to move separately from your pelvis, because otherwise you're going to get into these funky postures and not be able to do your motions that you want to be able to do. And this goes right up the chain, as we say, and it goes up into the back and will limit your abilities to do things in the office, at home, in your life.
Right, and this isn't just at the leg, it's not just at the hip, it's also up in the shoulder, it's also up in the neck. And there's a lot of ways that this can show up, but these are what we call associations, or like a synergistic pattern or a pattern of muscle firing. They can be faulty and actually causing pain, even though that there might not be any direct muscle damage to the muscle or the joint. It's just that they're not working in the appropriate fashion with each other to create that smooth motion throughout the day.
It might not be strength, it's just the firing pattern.
Right. So, yeah.
All right, so now we're going to be talking about diaphragmatic breathing, or what we call it as TA activation, which is just a muscle deep in your belly. But one of the things you can do with breathing is focus on breathing through your stomach. So when I'm sitting here breathing, I just try to breathe in, pulling all my air through my stomach here, and I let my hand rest. And this is a good way to activate the deep abdominals and get everything kind of stabilized, started to coordinate together with just a simple action of breathing. And deep abdominals will also kick in.
And one thing to keep in mind with diaphragmatic breathing too is that there's a bunch of other benefits to it. So we're not only doing motor control exercises for it, but these are common exercises that people use to calm themselves down. These are common exercises that people use to get better airflow and better oxygenation in their blood, and just generally feeling better. It's also commonly used in like meditation or mindfulness exercises, and people tend to see quite a bit of benefit from it. It actually has been shown to calm down the nervous system. So it is a good tool to have in your back pocket, especially if we're having a stressful day at work. Now, going off of that, as he mentioned, the deep abdominal activation is also an important piece of this. Because if we think about how we sit, we generally have a little bit of an arch in our back. And when we get comfortable with that, the front part of our belly, which is what we're going to be referring to as our deep abdominal area, but there's other muscles involved in the back and things like that too, tend to get a little bit stretched out or on slack, and so we lose the idea of contracting and bringing those together in order to bring ourselves upright and pull our belly in a little bit and kind of further stabilize our upper body. All right, with all that said, so we're going to get into this week's videos that are going to include some motor control exercises as well as diaphragmatic breathing activities, and we'll head on from there. So thank you for tuning in on this thrilling Monday, and thank you to our studio audience. Brittany, our only audience member.
Anyway, check out our website, Slouch No Ouch.com, and smash that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next videos.